Hey, Freedom Fighters. Welcome to another weekly episode here at the REI Freedom Podcast. Super excited. Jeremy Beland here. We have a great guest as usual today. Super excited to introduce our guest to you guys today. If you guys are wanting to know what it's like to invest in Florida after all the hurricanes, well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Joey Long is our guest today. He is out of St. Pete, Florida. He's 27 years old, remarkable young man who's already had a lot of success at a very early age. He's going to talk about a little bit about his strategies that got him there, which I hope you guys, the listeners, can implement into your business and take home with you and start doing some of the stuff that he does today. So we're going to talk a little bit about his story. Learn about some of his favorite acquisition techniques and how he gets some of these deals and has built an incredible portfolio, by the way, at a young age. And then we're going to talk about St. Pete, Tampa Bay area, what it's like now and what it's like going forward. So, Joey, welcome to the show today, my friend.
Appreciate you, my man. Appreciate you stroking my ego a little bit.
Well deserved. Well deserved. All right. Well, Joey, so before we get into the whole world that's changed down there, tell us a little bit about your story pre-hurricane, please.
Cool. So, like you said, my name is Joey Long. I specialize in the creative side of real estate, kind of the weirder deals, kind of the more frustrating deals that a lot of people either don't know how to progress with or don't have the time or want to take the time to deal with. The way I got into real estate was kind of weird. Real estate's been weird for me in general, but since day one, I've liked to say, we all know that pressure makes diamonds. And I think that's where my career came from. I actually had to drop out of college from some medical issues. I had a lacrosse scholarship. Wow. And I was coming home from an emergency surgery, and I was with my mom, and she talks to everybody and sat next to an old guy on a plane. And she just kind of told him that, I wanted to start a business, wanted to do my own thing, and was generally unemployable. So I had to figure out my own thing. And he just invited me to his real estate meetup. And I got introduced to one guy named Pete Fortunato. I talk about him all the time, and he just kind of took me under his wing, and he's been investing since the 50s and 60s. And he actually wrote the books on how to do a lot of this, the acquisition strategies that I do. So just having him in my corner has just kind of made all the difference in the world for me.
Wow. Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, having a mentor with that kind of experience, it's hard to come by. Never mind have him take you under his wings and show you everything that that he knows. I mean, there's one thing to buy into coaching, and obviously we have a coaching program, but nothing beats real world experience, especially somebody who's been around that long, because talk about ups and downs and challenges and perseverance and everything else. And many people don't even survive any business that long, never mind real estate. So that's really cool. Good for you, man. And you still work with him today?
Yeah, I spent before this hurricane, I spent the last week helping him with his house that got flooded. But he was awesome because, he invited me to a class that he was teaching, and I told him at the time I couldn't afford it. And he said, "Can you afford a promise?" And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "Can you promise that you'll either take what you learned and run with it, or you'll pay me when you can?" And so about a month after I took that class, I bought my first rental on seller financing, and I used my first month's rent check to go try to pay him. And he said, "You already paid me." Wow.
That's awesome. He just wanted you to succeed. That's amazing.
Yeah. And now I eat breakfast with him almost every day at McDonald's, and he's there anytime I need anything. I'd like to take the credit for being able to pull off these strategies, but 9 out of 10 times I have to go to McDonald's to talk to him.
Well, that's a cheap way to learn, right? So not a bad deal. So, all right. So you dropped out of college at 21 due to a medical issue, met this guy, he took you under his wing, and then you basically started learning about creative financing. Can you tell us some of the strategies that you implement or have implemented in your business with regards to creative financing?
Yeah, so I love just basic seller financing. Everybody knows seller financing, but with creative financing, I think a lot of people think that it stops at seller financing or subject to. I'm not a fan of subject to. I think there's a lot of risk. I think it's got to be the perfect scenario for that.
I agree.
And I'm not a fan of some of the gurus that, push out wholesaling sub to. I think that's horrible. My favorite strategies are basic seller financing is awesome, but I love buying options, and I love creating situations where I can trade something for something I like better. And that's opened up a lot of doors for me. Like right now, once we get past some pre-foreclosure stuff with 2 mobile homes on the water that actually survived the hurricanes, I'll be trading my car as a down payment for one and taking over that one sub 2, even though I just bashed sub 2.
Well, there's
And then
always a time and a place for sub 2.
exactly, the LTV on this one is perfect. The interest rate's perfect. So it's and it'll help him out significantly. And then instead of buying an option on his other house, we're actually buying a remainder interest. So I'll be able to trade the car, get that one house, and then I'll be able to go in and basically pay 15 grand for a waterfront lot that when he passes away, it'll be mine.
Wow. Okay. We're going to stop everything. I want to break this down because I've never heard anything like this before in my life. So this is pretty wild. All right. So you got 2 mobile homes. I assume they're not in a mobile home park. Are they like on their own land?
On their own land. Yep.
All right. In the Tampa Bay, St. Pete area, correct? With waterfront?
5 minutes from Tampa Airport with direct access to Tampa Bay.
How did you come across these 2 properties?
Actually, a wholesaler brought it to me that he couldn't make any progress with the deal. He kind of got the sense that the guy wanted something a little more creative, and so it let me go over and talk to him. And this is actually the first time this has ever happened. The second I said the word creative, the guy just his eyes lit up and he got excited. He
Wow.
doesn't want to sell for cash. He wants to sell to somebody that he can trust, help out, and help build into what they're trying to build. And so it really just came down to me meeting him, figuring out his situation. It turns out his wife passed away 2 years ago from cancer. He's dealing with skin cancer. He's got no kids. He's dealing with pre-foreclosure, and he's 77 or 78 now. And he's still working as an electrician in a van with no AC.
Wow.
So to me, all the pieces were there, and maybe my brain's just weird, but it was pretty easy to put that puzzle together because he has 2 houses that are falling apart that he wants to get somewhere better. He wants a better car, and he doesn't want to sell cash. So I have a perfectly good car with AC that is pretty high end. And he looked at it once and he's like, wow, there's like a spaceship. Where can I get one of those? It's like, funny you should say that.
And you own this car free and clear.
Yeah.
So it's a car that you own free and clear. You're going to basically trade him. Here's my title for your mobile home on one piece of land. And then you're going to, how are you going to buy the other one? The other piece of land?
So we're putting a $15,000 value on the car. I'm giving him a slight discount on the car just, to make everybody
equity. Okay.
Yeah. So this thing you can buy it for like 20 to 22. I'm giving it to him for 15. And that's going to be my down payment for the first house. And that one is actually in really good shape. It's a 3-2. It's its own property. So, I don't have to deal with it's real property. I don't have to deal with any of the DMV stuff. And that one, it's really just cosmetic rehab. It's a beautiful house. It's 1,500 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath, has a little boat dock. It's really cool. So that one I'm buying with the down payment with the car, taking over the remainder with the bank as sub 2. And then we're having him hold a second.
Okay.
So that one, I'm going to give him an income. And that way he'll also have a car that he can drive that has AC. He'll be able to get rid of his van. And then the other house, I offered to buy that one because we were a little, and I'll talk more about this in a minute, but we were just a little bit off on price for the total of the house or of the first house. So I said, well, what if I could buy an option on your other house and, give you some money now and buy the rest of it in the next 10 years at some point? And He said, well, I have no kids. I'm dealing with skin cancer. I don't want to be, in this location in 10 years. I want to be in my RV in the mountains. So if I'm dead or have no kids to give the money to, what good is the money to me?
Sure.
So he basically said, if you can give me an extra 15K, which my offer for the option was 10K. And he said, if you can give me 15, I'll just deed it to you when I die.
Wow. Okay. All right. So a lot to break down here. This podcast is going in a different direction, but this is good stuff because this is like amazing stuff to learn for our listeners. So the car you're going to trade in, you're going to you're going to take over the property's mortgage sub 2. It's a mobile home, right? So, but he does have financing for it. And
it's 1997 build, so I can get new financing on it too if I want to refi.
Perfect. And then he's going to hold a second to get a little extra income. And I assume you plan on just renting this out after you do some cosmetic updates, or you're going to do it just as is?
I'm either going to rent it out or I have a buddy that I'm going to do a rent to own structure with.
Rent to own. So you'll get it to cash flow. You won't really be responsible for any of the headaches if you do the rent to own situation. And if you rent to own, then he can just buy it in, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, however you create that note with him and get paid on the front end with a down payment, get paid monthly on a cash flow, and then get paid on the back end basically with a balloon payment because you're going to have some profit built in. Then you can always pay off the seller's second note, I guess, at that time as well, correct?
Yep.
And how long is your second, your note in the second position with the seller as is?
We're going to be doing it for 30.
Okay, 30.
He wants it to go until he dies, so he has that income stream.
Okay, wow, wild. And if you do keep it as a rental, do you plan on like refinancing it to get any of this cash out, or are you just going to let the rents just pay everybody and everything and just get the few $100 a month as is?
He only has about $60K left on the mortgage, and this thing's worth $180 right now.
Wow.
So the LTV is good. So I honestly, I don't think I'll have to refi, but if I need to, I'd most likely, I don't like banks. That's why I like the creative side of things. I've actually never used a bank for a loan. So
okay,
if I can help it, if I end up replacing that money, I'll just bring in some private IRA money.
All right. And what are you going to do about a car? Cause you're like out of a vehicle now.
Uber to go get a new one.
Okay. All right. I love it. All right. So
anyways,
let's talk about the second property. So the second one is the one that has, you said it had deeded water rights or on the water. He wanted an extra $5K to it. So you're going to do the option. Explain what that option is. Break that down for us in crayon, please. Like I'm a 3-year-old, because I really need that basic.
So it's actually a little different from an option. So an option is just like in stocks, you pay a certain amount now for the right to buy it at any point in the next amount of years for that agreed price. That's what I offered him originally. And he said, what's the money good for if I die? So he didn't really have interest in me paying him the rest of it later on. So he basically said, well, if you can give me the 15K now, then whenever I die, I'll just add, or he said, if you give me the 15K, then we'll just do a remainder interest. And basically what that means is when he dies, I inherit the property.
Wow. Okay.
So I'll be buying that for the 15K, and I might give him a little more at this point, just after all this stuff with the storms, and I can, so I might. But the cool part about that is that land right now is probably worth 150.
So you're coming out of pocket in some sense with all this, right? Because you're going to bring some cash to the table for one. You're going to bring a paid vehicle down for the other, right? So you're bringing some cash out of pocket for this, but you're obviously bringing on a lot of equity, right? Sounds like to me like somewhere around 6, 7, 8 to 1 return on down payment with equity. You're going to obviously get some monthly cash flow on both properties, I would assume as well. He's going to vacate both properties. And this is really about solving somebody's problem, finding a creative solution to really, because like you said, it wasn't just cash that he needed now. He needs some cash now. The vehicle really helps him out, probably because going through a pre-foreclosure, he probably can't go out and get an automobile loan right now to get something. And if he's getting cash now, he doesn't want to just spend it on a car and have no cash left. So you give him.
They're so expensive right now that I can give him a nice car for a fraction of the price.
Yeah, absolutely. Cars are freaking insane. The more money than freaking houses. It's an absolute ripoff. All right, so you're going to give him cash now. You're going to give him cash every single month as reoccurring cash flow, a little extra income. Give him a car that's probably more dependable than his van with no AC that he gets to actually drive to work at 77 years old with skin cancer, still working his butt off. Now he at least can be cool. So you solved a lot of problems for this guy where traditional wholesaler may not have been able to help him at all, because there's a lot of gaps here that we just fall short on when it comes to straight up wholesaling.
Yeah. And we've been working on this one. I met him for the first time in October of last year. So this is also one, it's just, we've become friends. Like we smoked a cigar together, and it was kind of like, all right, we're boys now. So, we just talk on the phone, after these storms, we talked for an hour just to make sure everyone was okay. Didn't even talk about the property. And when it comes to just wholesaling, a lot of people, if they can't get that contract sent to somebody within the next 3 days, they're going to move on, and then they're going to call them back in 6 months. And then there's someone like me who's going to spend that whole 6 months becoming their best friend and solving all their problems so that I can actually put them in a better situation rather than, someone just coming in with a regular cash offer.
I love it. So obviously a year is a pretty long follow-up. Obviously it turned out to be a good situation. In my business, we're all about the follow-up. We follow up monthly, maybe bi-monthly at most, because our database is so large. But we really like to keep it personalized. So when we're following up, it's not like, hey, you ready to sell your house? Hey, you ready to sell your house yet? They know why you're calling, right? But when you get to know somebody and build that rapport, and this has worked out very well for our business model as well, it's not uncommon for us to get properties when a year, 2 years, sometimes even 3 years after the fact, because it's all just about when timing's right, right? These people typically like to kick the can down the road as far as they possibly can. And once they hit the end of the road, they're forced to make a decision. And who better to make a decision with who's that person's been front center of mind that whole time?
Exactly. And when it comes to solving their problems and getting more creative, you build that trust more. And I can probably count on, I'll say two hands, the amount of people that I haven't done business with in the future after buying their house. And to me, that only comes with building that relationship. So I always turn my sellers into lenders. I always turn them into bird dogs. They're always sending me more stuff to buy, or I borrow money from as many of them as I can. So I find if, it's just that one call and move on, you're never going to be able to pull that off. And I like to build that snowball effect, not just one deal now and not know what's coming next.
I love it. So in your business, you're a solopreneur, right? You're handling your marketing, acquisitions, dispositions, all the creative strategies, and running your portfolio.
I have one guy that helps me out.
Okay. What does he do?
He basically does my marketing and my lead management at this point. My biggest struggle is finding somebody that understands how to structure a deal the way that I do.
Sure.
So I haven't brought somebody on for that yet. And quite frankly, I don't scale enough or have interest in scaling enough to need that.
Yeah.
And I like my face being the one in front of people, just because I know that it's going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously you've learned stuff from a guy who's been doing it for 50 years. So it's going to be hard to find somebody that you can fill that role. All right. So what do you do for marketing lead gen real quick?
I do direct mail, cold calling, all the usuals. Some of my most efficient are just word of mouth referrals. I get 90% of my deals from that, and maybe 70. But also garage sales. Garage sales are one of my favorites to do. I don't even know I can't even give you a number, how many deals I've gotten from garage sales. I've gotten private money from garage sales. It's the easiest thing ever. Everyone has all their stuff on their driveway. Door knocking is great. I started out door knocking. I was a door-to-door salesman before real estate. So I have no problem knocking on a door, but nobody wants to talk to you when you bug them at their own doorstep.
Sure.
If somebody's having a garage sale, they want to talk to everybody. They're going to tell you, and they want to get rid of their crap. So all I do, and when I was broke learning real estate, I just, did the old Gary Vaynerchuk strategy and flipped stuff from garage sales to have, money to pay bills while I was figuring out real estate. And that kind of led to, why are you selling all this stuff? Are you just getting ready to move, or, you're just clearing out some extra stuff, or, what's going on? And 9 out of 10 times they're getting ready to move. And if they haven't talked to an agent already, you're going to be the first person they talk to. I'll make them an offer right there on the driveway. Well, hey, I'll buy the house and I'll buy everything on the driveway and make this real easy for you.
Wow. You mean I don't even have to spend the rest of this Sunday here with all these people in my driveway? You'll just buy it all in? Yeah. All I have to do is just throw it in the garage in a big pile?
I'll even throw it in the garage for you.
I love that. So you're literally driving past garage sales. I mean, are you looking them up ahead of time and spending like a day to go out and to visit as many as you can? How does that look like?
So it's evolved a little bit. So I used to, there's a couple of apps that you can do, like you said, Craigslist, Facebook. There's a lot of garage sales on there. So I found that there's some good apps for it. There's one called Yard Sale Treasure Map that basically just, you can open it up and it's like a GPS map going to every garage sale that has a listing on any social media that it's linked to. So that one was cool because they'd also label it as, estate sale, which generally they've already sold the house, the person died, they already know what's going on with it. But it gives you the description, it gives you pictures, it gives you the addresses. So I would use that. And then I'd also my neighborhood is just hot with garage sales. So around here, this time of year when it starts to cool off a little bit, when there's not a hurricane, there's people doing garage sales, every weekend, Friday through Sunday. So a lot of times I'll just be on my way home and I'll see a sign and I'll swing through. If I plan on it, I usually go out and I'll send out some messages for the listings that I find online, but otherwise I'll just kind of drive around and find them or send a friend to go around to them for me if I don't have the time.
That's amazing. What a strategy. And that costs you how much? Zero. For our listeners, that's a big fat zero.
A little bit of gas money, but
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So not only are you creative at putting deals under contract, but you're creative at finding deals and leads. Like your whole philosophy, start to finish in your business, is all about being creative and resourceful, and providing value where value is needed and thinking outside the box. And it's obviously served you very well.
yeah. And that goes back to Pete Fortunato also. The first thing he ever instilled in my head was use what you have to get what you need to get what you want.
Right.
And starting out at the age I started with no money, no experience, no credibility, I didn't have much to use. I had no money to use. So it really came down to that phrase just sticking in my head of, all right, what do I have that I can use to get what I need to get what I want, which is more houses.
Right.
And so that's where the ideas of the car comes in. That's where the ideas of, I have a car, I can go drive to garage sales. Just what do I have the ability to use now to get to that next step? And sometimes that's other people's stuff too. I traded my mom's car for a house one time, and I canceled the contract because she threatened to ground me when I was 23 years old.
That's hysterical. I love it. Yeah. I love it.
That car just got flooded by the hurricane, so she should have let me do it.
She should have. So, so as we record this today, you said you're 27 years old. Do you mind sharing what like your portfolio looks like today? Because I know you're at one of your Airbnbs as we speak. Can you give us an idea of what you've been able to achieve in your short 6 years of real estate?
Yeah, so I my portfolio is not as big right now as I would like it to be. I used to have a lot more units, but I started out where I could, so not the best neighborhoods, not the best houses. So
somewhere.
Yeah, 1920s to 1930s, stick builds that made me cash flow. They did what they were supposed to do, but at that point in time, I didn't have the funds needed to fix them up, and I didn't really want to give up the equity position to a partner to come in with money to fix it up. So I actually ended up selling most of my rentals back in 22, maybe, if I remember correctly.
Right before the interest rates. Good job, brother. Good job.
Oh yeah, I did very well with that.
Good timing.
Oh yeah, and that kind of gave me the ability, which was the plan, to start flipping more, to start putting more money into marketing, to start scaling up a little bit. And I put some of that into a little storage deal that I was involved in. It didn't go well with the partners. I got kind of screwed there, but it was all on purpose. I sold the not so great properties to get better properties. So now all my properties are within a mile from Madeira Beach, but outside of the flood zones. So that's like amazing. This house that I'm in right now, I'm 5 minutes from the beach, but this is the only house that I have that took no damage. But great location, still cash flow as well because it's beach accessible, but I didn't have to deal with any of the flooding.
So you're doing short-term rentals and long-term rentals.
Yeah. I like long-term a lot more. I don't like short-term.
Yeah. Short-term's a lot more customer service related for sure. So you have to be prepared for that. That's really, really amazing. And, and I honestly think how many doors you own, how many properties you own, it's irrelevant to me because a lot of people, it's just like a way to just pump their chest or puff their chest. And, it's like, I don't know, another notch in the belt. Look at me. I have 600 doors and it's like, well, I only make $5 a door. So I guess that's okay. But, it's all a moot point. I mean, the reality is, we're playing long-term, right? And I'm sure you learned this from your mentor. I buy and sell rentals too, right? I keep them for a period of year. I cash out some equity. I reapply them. Trying to level up. Some don't perform as well as I anticipate. Some just have more maintenance issues than I anticipate. Whatever the case is, there's no reason to hold on to something when something better comes along. And I still buy properties from a rental because I burr a lot that aren't the greatest properties, but I know if I sit them on them for a year or two, I'll get some equity. Then I can go use it towards something else. So I'm always buying and selling things to strengthen my, I guess my cash position from a cash flow perspective and equity position. But it doesn't really matter because sometimes I'll have 12 properties and then I'll have 6 and then I'll have 10 and then I'll have 4. And like none of that matters to me.
Exactly. Like last week I bought 3, or no, not last week, 3 weeks ago before the hurricanes. I don't even know what day it is. I bought 3 properties and sold 2 of them. Later this week, I'm supposed to buy 3 properties. I'm selling 2 of them. So it all just, I don't know. It varies. But
so it's a good segue as we wrap up this podcast. You know, you have gone through the hurricanes. Your world has been upside down in that area. You and many other people. You know, I know we've been talking outside of this podcast because I'm supposed to come do a presentation at some point down there, and you know, you guys are dealing with real world problems. Like, you know, a lot of people have lost houses. A lot of people haven't had their properties insured. I mean, you guys have gotten, as you said, devastated by one of the worst hurricanes in your life in that area, and it's going to take a while to rebuild from all that. And you know, but you still have a business to run. You still have real estate deals to do. You still need to bring in business. You need to still survive from a, you know, economy basis. So, like, what does that look like now, and like, what do you anticipate how it's going to look going forward?
We're kind of still navigating that, because I've been through, I honestly can confidently say well over 100 hurricanes at this point.
Wow.
But I've born and raised here. This is the first one I've ever left for. So these were scary. And also, we've never had storm surge the way that we had on the one 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we've never had these bad of storms back to back. So we had, you know, 30-foot piles of debris laying in front of every single house that then we had a Cat 3 come through and blow them as projectiles everywhere.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, it was a really weird few weeks. And so now, because our area has not been hit by a direct major hurricane in 103 years.
Wow.
This year we got hit by 2 in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So we're kind of navigating how to go about that now. So many houses got, you know, fully destroyed. So many houses got leveled. So many foundational issues. So many of them don't have flood insurance. So it's really going to be a tough navigation to figure out. And obviously, you know, you can't just jump on the phones and blast direct mail right now, because you don't want to be that scumbag that is just going to, you know, dive in. So really what we're doing right now is, I actually have a call with my guy after this, is we're basically going to call every single person we can in the most affected areas. And we're going to say, hey, we're not trying to sell you on anything. We're not trying to buy your house. We invest in real estate around here, and we have all the connects that you could need to get your house back to where you had it. What can we provide?
Yeah.
And
add value.
Add value. And that way we can give back to our community, because really in this time frame, I have no interest in picking up a bunch of contracts. I want to see people not, you know, lose everything they have.
Yeah, of course.
So while we're offering that, there's obviously going to be those people that are just so fed up with it and fed up with Florida. They're going to be like, you know what? I'm not fixing anything. I want to sell. And of course, then we can help those people. But we're just not trying to, you know, come barging through the door like, hey, let me buy your house right now after it just got destroyed.
Yeah.
It will be interesting with prices, though, because FEMA was already giving us some issues around here. And I don't know how familiar you are with the 50% rule, but around here, especially if you have a 1-story house, they're basically not going to put any value on the actual structure. They're going to put all the value in the land. And so the 50% rule, you can only do renovations at 50% of what FEMA is allocating the cost of the house to be worth.
Wow.
So, yeah. So say, you know, you have a house on Madeira Beach that was worth $1 million and it just got flooded. Well, now maybe the land's worth 400 and your house is maybe worth 50. FEMA is going to give you 25 grand allocation for fixing it up, which basically gives you no route. Exactly. It gives you no route but to scrape it and rebuild. So we're going to see a lot of that. I say 90% of the houses that are single story in flood zones, that's going to be what happens. So it's going to be a big hit to the sellers, because they really did just lose a bunch of equity that they deserve to have. And it's no one's fault but, you know, Mother Nature and FEMA. So
yeah, I mean, you can't anticipate, if you own a 1-story house and it's been doing great for, you know, 50 years, all of a sudden, well, maybe I should build it on stilts, right? In case for some reason it does flood. But, you know, I know other, like my son goes to school up in Myrtle Beach, and there's certain beaches up there where like every house that's been built is built up on the, you know, the stilts or whatever they do it, however it's called.
That's part of building code now. It has to be. And that's part of the 50% rule, is if you can't fix it up, they give you 2 options to either scrape it or jack it up on stilts.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of changes coming with Florida. There's a lot to navigate. Obviously, high insurance. Sellers are going to be needing the money, but there's not going to be any money left in their property. And you can't buy these properties if there's no equity or get them at a price, because even as a rehabber, you're going to be stuck to these new regulations and changes, which are going to be very costly too. So it's definitely going to be weird. And, you know, the Tampa Bay area, despite the interest rates, has been a booming market and one of the best markets in the country for many years now.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a cool off with that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, it's really just going to be a factor of people just get scared. And I do think we'll see after this, I think we'll see a wave of, everything going up again as some of these smaller houses, get rebuilt into we call them the McMansions, but they, it's going to slow down for a while, and it's going to be really interesting to see.
Wow, it sure will. Well, Joey, great podcast today. Really appreciate you being a guest here today. For people who would like to learn more about you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you or follow you on social media? How would they do that?
I'm really active on Facebook. I think you can just search Joey Long and it should come up. But Instagram, I'm trying to be a little more active on now too. So that is joeylong.rei, as in real estate investor. And I'm posting, some stuff from podcasts on there, just some stuff about what we're doing with some of our deals and some of our rehabs and structures and stuff like that. So trying to be more active on there. So feel free to follow me on there, and I'll try to keep putting some value out on there.
Love it. And then obviously you have your monthly meetup. Can you share what that's like and where that's at?
Yeah, I have a monthly meetup in downtown St. Pete on First Avenue South at my favorite bar. It's called Pinellas Ale Works. They're dog friendly, have the best beer. And that's where we're going to have you come and speak until all of this mess. But that's once a month, second Thursday of every month. We might be switching it to quarterly next year just because I'm a little short on time. But
sure.
If anybody, is in the area and ever wants to come by that, just shoot me a message, reach out, and I'll send you the info on that. I know next month we have Adam Whitney coming in. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Yep. Great speaker on flipping. So we always have great speakers like you're coming in hopefully in December, and just try to, bring in as much value as we can to help out people at all different levels.
Yeah, you're doing an amazing job with it. Awesome. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes, listeners, so you can definitely have access. And I don't know about you guys, but I learned a ton. And now I want to learn more with Joey. So if I was you, I'd definitely be reaching out to him and following him, because he is truly a wealth of knowledge. I'm very, very impressed with his ability to do creative stuff today. I've never heard of anybody giving a car for a house. And that is like the coolest thing ever. So I love it. Joey, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast today.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me on. We should do it again sometime.
We will definitely. All right, listeners, that is a wrap for today. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you guys next week. And remember, if you guys want to learn to acquire off-market properties, always you can go to reifreedom.com/apply to have a discovery call with yours truly. And obviously, please make sure you go into our Facebook group, the Off-Market Freedom Fighters, where we're doing monthly masterclass with people with all kinds of niches. And I'm going to convince Joey to come on and do a masterclass with us down the road so he can spend an hour showing us what he does. So stay tuned for that. We will see you guys next week.